I'm Xanderwood. I make indie games and tutorials on game development. I also play your indie games every week on my channel. Make sure you subscribe and click that bell icon so you never miss a video. As always, before we get into the video, a massive shout out to my Patreon supporters: James Welsh, Basic Terra Cole, Tomorrow Alex Xand, Retro Galaxy, Clone 13, Foozle CC, Jet Simon, Fan Van, and Alex Fedorov. If you want to check out the Patreon benefits on offer, there is a link in the description. You can get monthly access to new, free, royalty-free pixel art, game music, all that good stuff for a small monthly pledge. Hey guys, welcome back to episode 2. Well, technically episode 1, because episode 1 was really just a preview / teaser video. This is the first video where we're actually going to start to build something. So all I've got right now is just a basic layout. The size of my layout is 1920 by 360, and that's the width of level 1. The viewport size, if we click into the properties here, the viewport size is 320 by 180, and you can see that that is just this little dotted rectangle in the top left of this layout. I have an event sheet which is completely blank, and a layout which is completely blank, and absolutely nothing else is going on right now. So the first thing we need to do is create a platform, because this is an action platform game. We need something for the player to walk on. Double click. Let's go to a tile background. Let's change the size to 16 by 16, and I'm going to make it a kind of browny orange color. And I'm going to get the line tool, and I'm going to just draw a white box around the outside. Again, the art, I'm not too focused on the art at the moment. We can pretty up the art later in the series, but for now it's just going to be for a purpose, which is to walk on. Now let's zoom in. And what I actually want to do before we actually get started is I want to just change the width, sorry, the height of this layout, because if you look at the original Castlevania game, the height, it's not too, you don't move vertically in the game, it's more horizontal. You can move up and down stairs, but for pretty much the entirety of the game, it's just a horizontal side scroller. So I'm going to change the height to match the height of our viewport, which is 180. And I've got the grid on here. You can see the checkbox show grid and snap to grid. I've got those on with a grid size of 16, just so that it fits perfectly within the boxes. And I'm not going to go right to the bottom. I'm going to go across, and I just want this to be the floor for the entire level. I'm going to change the name, and I'm going to call it ground, and we're going to give it a behavior, which is the solid behavior, because we don't want to fall through it. Now we need to create a sprite which is going to represent the player. So double click, let's go down and select sprite, double click, and again this one here I'm going to make 16 width, but the height I'm going to make, in fact let's make it 16 by 16 and see what that looks like first. I'm just going to make it green. You can make it absolutely any color. Make sure with this one you click the origin point, and we're going to set the origin quick assigned to the top. Let's go bottom left, to the bottom left, and then pop it down on top of there, and then hit play, and you can see you've got a green square walking along the background. In fact, let's make the background a different color, or you can see I've got 2 layers down here. Just delete. I'm going to delete the player layer. I was messing around before the tutorial, but you should just have layer 0, which is fine. Everything can go on there for now. I'm going to click on that layer 0. I'm going to come over here to background color. I'm just going to make it a very dark gray, just so we can see the tiles stand out. Right, perfect. There's our player, there's our background. This player here, this isn't going to be the artwork for the player. We're going to make another sprite which will contain all the animations and the actual art of the player, and we're going to basically set its position to this box. So over here in the name of this sprite, I'm just going to call this one player_base, because this is what's going to have all of the behaviors. So click on the behavior, add new behavior, and obviously we're going to give it the platform behavior. We're not going to leave these properties to default because this is way too high. Max speed, I'm going to take it down to 100. Acceleration and deceleration can be the same, but jump strength, I'm going to bring it down to 350. I'm not going to enable double jump, and I'm not going to enable default controls because I want to be able to program in the controls myself. And that is exactly what we're going to do next. So double click. Let's add in an input now. So scroll down, we're going to find the keyboard, double click. It's going to pop over here in your objects. Go back to the event sheet, and we're going to add our first event. Double click on add event, double click on keyboard, and now we're going to say is key down. You can see you've got a few different options here. You've got is key down, on key pressed, on any key pressed, but you want is down, double click, and then we're going to say A, because that's going to be moving left, and then we're going to need to copy this out 4 times. So highlight the entire block, Control C, Control V, 2 more times to make 4. Then double click, we're going to change it to D, so that's our left and right. We're going to change this one to W, and we're going to change this one to S. And we want S because we want, when the S is down, when we're holding S, we want the player to be ducking. Now, the only one we're going to need to change here is the W, because we don't want to be holding W down to jump. We just need it on press. So double click, hit back, and then instead of is key is down, click on key pressed. So when we press W, then that's going to activate the jump. So now we need to click on the action here for if A is down, add an action, and we're going to go to the player base because that's where we have the behavior, and we're going to simulate a control. So we're going to get the system to automatically push down left. Then we're going to drag out a copy, so you can hold down control, click and drag, double click and change it to right, click out a copy, double click, change it to jump. Now there isn't going to be one for S because this the crouch or the duck is going to be done through the animation. So we're just going to need those 3 for now. Now if we play it, you're going to be able to move around and test it out with the WA and D key. And I quite like it. I think the jump height is pretty good. We can move left, we can move right, and we can jump. However, we can walk off the screen, and the screen does not follow us. So what we're going to need to do now is create a camera. So let's go back to layout 1, and this is going to have to be a sprite as well. So sprite, and again 16 by 16. It's important to keep sprite sizes consistent. I'm going to give it another color, just a kind of very glaringly bright pink color. Oh, it's up here because my image point is way off. So make sure that you click on the image point and then right click, and I'm going to click assign that right bang in the middle, and there it is. And then my camera, I want my camera to be hovering above my player. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it the same image point as the player so I can align it properly. So right click, quick assign, bottom left. Fine, now I can move it exactly above the player, and I'm going to move it 3 blocks, so 3 16 by 16 blocks above the player. I'm going to rename this one to camera, if I could spell camera, and we're going to need to give this one a behavior as well. So click on the behavior, add a new behavior, and this one's going to be scroll to. Now you could put the scroll to on the actual player base itself, but I don't want to do that because I want to give myself the freedom to create more of a smooth camera effect, and also play around with camera shakes as well. And if the layout is kind of exactly the width of the top and the bottom, that can pose some issues if you've got the scroll to directly on the actual player character itself. So I like to have it independently, just following everything around, because then I can kind of switch it off and back on again. We can add second cameras if we need to scroll across and show. So for example, if you walk into a boss area, you can select a different camera, scroll across. It creates more freedom is what I'm trying to say. So now we need to go back to the event sheet, and we can click and add an event, and we can say system, and we can say every tick, and we want the camera every tick to set the Y position. We don't want to set the X because the X is going to be X, not Y. X is left and right, Y is up and down. So we want it to be every tick in line with the X position. So it doesn't matter if the player jumps, the camera's going to stay in one place, but if we're moving left and right, it will follow us. There we go. So you can see the players jumping. And if we had it kind of matching the player's jump. If we had a bigger layout, then the camera would move up and down every time I jumped, which could be a little disorientating. So I kind of just like it as it is there. Great. So that's what we've got so far. I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to do these tutorials in kind of smaller bite-sized bits. What we've got so far is a nice big long horizontal layout that we're going to have to go through, which is going to be the castle scene from the NES version of Castlevania. And we're going to have enemies coming in from the left and the right, and we're going to have lots of different things we can attack with melee weapons, and we're going to have a projectile knife that we can throw as well. There's going to be heart pickups, candles that we can break off the walls, stairs that we can go up and down, and then the objective will be to get to the other end of the room and go through a door, which will take us into a boss room for a boss fight. But all that's coming up in the series, so make sure you hit the like button, subscribe if you're not already subscribed so you don't miss an episode of this tutorial series, and I will see you in the next episode.